Hi, good morning. Welcome to the next video of level 2 training. So today let me start off telling the vision that we have. We from this initiative of REACH in Rejola, we have a vision of creating 1,000 qualified jobs by December 2021. 1,000 candidates who qualify for jobs. So we are looking at increasing the number of people that get benefited from this training. So I would strongly request all of you to please share this particular training videos and the WhatsApp group link with as many friends as possible so that all of them can benefit. So that's the vision that we have. So having said that, let me start off today's training by logging into training.rejola.com/software so that we can track our progress. So I have given considerable time for each of these things, so I will mark 5 in everything. And let me get into the project. Yeah, so yesterday we decided we will discuss about relational databases and what they are and all that. So let's continue with that. So yesterday we gave a small introduction to database, and we also created a PowerPoint file. So let me open that. Created. Variable server information. No, sorry, I created a Excel file yesterday. Level 2 example. Yeah, database and examples. Okay. Yeah, so this is what we had discussed yesterday, that this is how a table looks like. And it has to have an ID, and these are basically rows. These horizontal ones are rows, and these vertical ones like ID, city, name, and location, these are called columns. And we also gave an introduction to the type of different columns that we can have, or data types or column types that we can have. Now we want to discuss on relational databases. Now to do this, I'll come back here and I'll give an example with the whatever we've already discussed in this particular training course. Now here, if you see, language is known. A single person can have multiple languages that they might know. So few of us know 2 languages, 3 languages, 4 languages, few even know more. So how do you store the languages known in a database? So one of the ways in which you can do that is, let me save this as a new file and name it as relational databases. Relational database example. So one of the ways in which you can do that is you can have an ID column, you can have a name column, you can have an age column, gender, city, and am I covering everything? Name, age, gender, language, city, yeah, and the only thing language. Now I need to also store language. So as I said, few of us might know 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 or even more languages. So how do I store those details? Okay, how do I store them in this particular table? So one of the ways in which I can do that is I can say language 1, language 2, language 3. So let's see if I can pull this and the number changes automatically. Yeah, 4, 5. So let's say one of the ways in which I can do this is I can just put additional columns, and I can put language, whatever language I know, I can put for that particular particular person, I can put here. For example, if I am entering name as Thomas and my age is 40, male, city Chennai, and let's say the language that I know English, I know Hindi, I know Tamil, I know Malayalam, and I also know Telugu. Let's say I mention something like this. Okay. So when I mention something like this, now if there are up to 5 languages, it'll take care. Okay. Let's say there's another person who comes in, someone by the name of Ravi with some details, and he knows 6 languages. And how would you store the 6th language? Then you will have to create another column called language 6. And there are few people, of course very rare people, who know even more than 10 languages, who knows 15 languages. Then how will you add them here? Now you may say, okay, that's a very rare scenario and let us not get into that, let us not do that. So this is one of the scenarios. Now let us say, so this particular solution of adding columns for a given row is not a very good solution for adding multiple data like this, which can keep changing from person to person. I'll give you another scenario. Now let us say that I am doing a weight reduction activity. Let's say I am overweight and I want to reduce my weight. One of the best ways to reduce weight is to track your weight every day. So every day you just measure yourself and then write it down. So let us say I have ID, my name and my weight. Okay. Let us say, and the reason why I did not put number here is ID number, as I said, there is an option in MySQL where you can have auto increment number. So it will automatically come as 1 and 2. So no need to worry about it. So let us say I am overweight and I am at a weight of 100 and I want to reduce it to, let's say, 70 or 60. And of course it's going to take time. It will not happen in a week or a month. It may take even a year or more sometimes. It depends on what kind of how strict you get into the regime, and you have to be careful also in reducing a weight. It should not affect you also. So one of the ways that doctors or people who can help in weight reduction, was the first thing that they suggest is please maintain a record of your daily weight. So if you're 100, just mention it every day, the next day, whether you've become 99.9, 99.8, 99, 98, 97. Track your progress. And that is considered to be the most important activity when you are reducing weight. Now let us say you are trying to write a software to track this weight reduction. Okay, so every day you want to write the date and you want to write the weight of that particular date. So for example, I want to write date and weight of that particular. So let's say today is 15 August and the weight today is 100. And I want to do the same every single day. So I want to do it tomorrow, day after tomorrow, for the next 1 year, that is 365 days. I want to make this entry for this particular person. Okay. How do I do that? Can I add date 2, weight 2, date 3, weight 3 and then keep adding in columns? That is maybe a way, but that's definitely not a recommended way, because let's say the person continues the weight monitoring and he decides or she decides that I never want to become overweight, so I will do this for the next 5 years, for the next 10 years. Imagine the number of columns that you will be adding into your table, which is totally a wrong way of doing adding data. So in such scenarios you will use the concept called relational databases. That is, this particular database or this particular table inside a database, this particular table, let's say you call it as let's say the person details, and this particular table which takes the date and the weight, you call it as, let's say, weight monitoring. Okay. Now what I would basically do is, let me center it first. Yeah. So what I would basically do here is, I will link this particular table, I will relate this particular table to this table. Now let's say this is ID number 1. So what I would do is, I would give a person ID here, and I would mention the ID of the person, this particular value here, okay, and I would also have a weight ID, okay, or I will not, let me not call it ID. I will also have an ID which is meant for this weight monitoring table, so it will also have an ID like this. So today my weight was 100. Tomorrow, that is 16th of August, let's say my weight is 99.9. I reduced marginally. So the person ID is still the same. It is the same person. The same person has that particular weight. But the weight ID is 2. Its own table ID has increased by 1. Okay. Day after tomorrow, I again checked my weight and my weight has become 99.8. It has reduced a little more. And the person ID is still 1. And the weight ID is 3. Now you get a picture as to what is happening. Okay. So whenever I am measuring the weight, I just have to make an entry here like this, and no matter how many days I am measuring, whether I am doing it for a year or for 10 years, this does not change because the person will remain the same. Okay, this will keep on increasing. So if I want to find out what is the weight of this person on December 15th, I have to just come here and search through the dates with the ID, because the ID is over here. This is the ID, the person ID. With the ID, I'll just search the dates by keeping the person ID as a reference, and I will remove the particular weight that is there and I will return it. So this is a way of solving real world situations by using databases. And this particular concept, as I said, it is only a concept. It is not a technology or a machine or a software. It's a concept. It's a human concept. Just like you have object-oriented programming as a concept, the same way relational database is a concept which helps you to add more data. And of course, this is a very basic concept. It's not a very high-level concept, but this is at the crux or at the center of all the software programming. So you have to understand how this works. Otherwise, it will be difficult for you to develop programs and for you to clear your level 2 and go to level 3, because in level 3, this is what you would be using. You would be using all these concepts of object-oriented programming, relational databases, and you will be creating softwares, demo software. And that's how you will be certified for level 3, and then go to level 4, where you will literally work on a live project. You will get a complete exposure as to what is a real world project, what do IT companies do, what do they create, how do they serve their customers, what kind of a software do they create. You will get a complete real-time exposure in level 4. So without understanding this concept, though it is very basic, you will not be able to move to the next round. So this is what is relational database and nothing else. You're just creating another relational table by referring to an ID from here and then adding everyday values. And you can just retrieve whatever value you want with help of this particular ID which is linked to this. Okay, so to give a little bit of a indication of what I just spoke, I'll probably do this also here, so that it gives a little more idea. And let me make it as this color here. Okay, so this is what is happening. Okay, this particular ID is getting referenced here, relationship is maintained here, and with this you can retrieve whatever values you want for this particular person. Now in future, if you want to change the name of this person to something else, you can do it and none of these data get affected. Okay, that's the good thing about relational databases. So having said that, now let us see what we are supposed to do. So we have completed relational database, we have completed the theory part, now we are getting into practicals. So let me just make an entry here. So we are getting into practicals of MySQL. Store all previous class details in table with languages known in a relational subtable. That is, here if you see, these should not be in the same table. Instead, these languages should be stored in a separate table like what we did here. That is the homework. So for this, I have to introduce a little more about what is MySQL database, how do we access the database, how do we create a database. So I'll now cover that. So for that, what I'll do is, I'll cover PHP MyAdmin. What is PHP MyAdmin and why do we use it? Okay. So let me switch on. Yes, server is already on. So now if I come to localhost, okay, the localhost is over here. So when I come to localhost, of course it will open the page that we started creating right from day one. Here there is one more tool that exam provides called PHP MyAdmin. And how do you access it? You just go to localhost /PHP MyAdmin. So you can see it is already suggesting here, but this is how you have to go: localhost /PHP MyAdmin. And when you come here, you will basically it will basically open this particular tool, which it might not do right now because I just realized that I did not turn on the MySQL server over here. So because I have not turned it on, it gives an error. So let me come and turn the MySQL server also. So it requires the MySQL server also to run for the PHP MyAdmin to show, because you need the access to run it. So I can see that there's some kind of a, yeah. So it's asking me to allow access. So I'm going to allow the access. So once I allow the access, let me open this again, and here you can see that the ports have also been allocated, and now MySQL is running in a green color here. So if I come back here and if I refresh this, let's see if this time it loads PHP MyAdmin correctly. Yeah, I think it's loading. Yes. So this is the PHP MyAdmin. So now let me tell you what is PHP MyAdmin. PHP MyAdmin is just a tool required or a tool that is used to visually see your database, your table and values. Okay, this is not MySQL. This is basically something that helps you to see your database, the MySQL database, in a very graphical manner, in a visual manner. That is what PHP MyAdmin is. Okay, so can you work on MySQL databases without PHP MyAdmin? Yes, you can work. In fact, the recommended way or the way in which you're supposed to be working on a database, which is expected as a programmer, is a command line prompt. You're supposed to be using command line prompt to actually create a table, to create the columns, and to define which column is what data type, or whether it is an auto increment or a primary and all that. You're supposed to be using a command line, or you're supposed to be using PHP code to do it. That is, in a PHP page, let's say for example here, this is our NetBeans with the form and form process. You're supposed to be creating it here. Okay. Now what PHP MyAdmin does is, instead of you writing code like create table so and so, and instead of writing code for the whole thing, it helps you to do that with clicks of a mouse or a keyboard. So it helps you to do it in a visual manner. That's the only thing that PHP MyAdmin does. So please understand, PHP MyAdmin is not MySQL. It is a software which helps you to visualize MySQL in a better way, to handle the tables in a better way. Now this particular information is little important, because you should not restrict MySQL functionalities just with PHP MyAdmin. You can do much more than what PHP MyAdmin allows you to do. You can dynamically create tables, you can dynamically add columns to a table without having to even come to PHP MyAdmin. You can do it through the software itself, through your code itself. So having said that, let me create the tables now, or let me create DB and tables. We will do that today and we will close for today. Okay. So how do I create a table? So you can see that these things that you see here are basically databases. On the left side that you see are the different databases. So you can see information schema is one database. MySQL itself, all these are default. I didn't create them. These came by default when you installed exam. So I did not create them, they've come by default. And then there's another one called performance underscore schema. There's one called PHP MyAdmin, and there's something called test. So all these are databases. And when you click on the plus sign here, you will see that all the tables inside the database will be shown. So all these that you're seeing here are the tables inside that particular database. Okay, same thing here. If you click on the plus here, you will see all the tables inside that particular database. So like that you have different tables. Now whenever you are creating a particular project, ideally you would create one database. Okay, one database but multiple tables. For example, in here itself you saw that this is one table and this is another table, but this entire thing would sit inside one database. So one database would have two tables. Okay, so that's the ideal way of creating a database and a table. Initially when I started programming PHP MySQL, I created it in a different way. Then later on I realized it was not required. I can just have one database and how many ever tables I want inside that. So how do we create a database using PHP MyAdmin in MySQL? Okay, so I will have to just click on this new over here. So when I click on new, it is actually going to ask for a database name. So here the database that I want to create is basically, I want to store all the person details, right? So I want to store their language, gender, name. So let me call it as registration. Okay, or let me call demo underscore registration. That's the name that I would like to give. Demo underscore registration. Okay, it's a local host, so this is the name that I want to give. This is the name of the database table. So I'll come here and I'll say that this is the database name that I'm giving, and I also need to store it somewhere, otherwise I may not remember this. So I'll just put it over here. Okay, I'll just save it over here, the database name, and I'll say create. Okay, so database demo registration has been created. So this is the demo registration. There are no tables underneath it, and it has just opened that particular database. Now every database needs a password. Okay, so we have to set a password. So how do we set a password? There is something here called privileges. Now if without a password, by default I think MySQL, when you install exam, it does not come with a password. I think root password, it's called a root password. I think there's no password for it at all. That's what I vaguely remember. But I would like to set a password so that I can show you how to do it. So you have to click on privileges. Once you selected the database, click on privileges. And when I click on privileges, it will ask, so you can see here that there are different usernames, root, and what is the host, what is the privileges given to them, edit privileges, and all that you can do. And this root, as far as I know, it does not have a password, but I'll show you how to create a password. So you have to come here below here and you have to add user account. Okay, you're adding a new user for the databases. Okay, so when I click here, add user account, it will I'll create the username as demo user. So you can see demo registration is a database name. So I will call it as db is equal to, and user is equal to demo underscore user. I'm just giving a name. You can decide what name you want to give. It's absolutely fine. So as any host, and the password, since this is a simple one, I'll just give a very simple password. I'll probably give it as 1234. I'll just give a password as 1234. It says extremely weak. I'm not sure if it's going to accept it, but let's see if it will accept it or not. 1234. And authentication plugin, if there's only one option, I'm not sure what that is. And login information server, yeah, and generate password. That is, if you don't want, you can generate it and it's going to become a very good big password. Database for user account. Create database with same name and grant all privileges. Grant all privileges with wildcard username. Grant all privileges on database demo registration. Now I'm creating only for demo registration, so it is ticked, which is perfect. This is how I want it. So I will have this particular user with this particular password having all privileges on this particular database only, and that's how I want it. That's correct. And you can also give different privileges, which I would not be going through everything right now. You can go through them, which is important and good to go through. I will just say check all. So it will just select everything, and it is asking for SSL. Again, I will not cover this right now. I would strongly recommend that you do it. What is an SSL and where is it used? Why is it used? Please do that. Take your time. As I keep saying, take at least 8 hours every day. So I have entered all the details, and the password also I'm okay with showing that because it's a simple demo password that I've created. It's just 1234. And having entered all these details, I will just click on go over here. Okay, so I have also made demo user. Okay, and I have also given a password. So what I have done, okay, it's asking me whether to save the user ID and password. No, I don't need to save it. Okay, so now this particular demo underscore registration has a user ID and a password which I can use from my PHP to connect to it. If I don't have a user ID and password of a database, I cannot connect to it. I cannot save or retrieve the data. Okay. So I think we have done till here. We have come till here, and we'll close now. Tomorrow we will create tables. Okay, and that too we need two tables. One is the basic details, and the other one is the languages relational table. So tomorrow we will be doing this. We will create two tables, or in the next video we will be doing that. So that's it for today. I hope whatever I have explained is clear. If you have any doubt, of course you can always put a message in the WhatsApp group, and I would be happy to reply it there itself, or if it requires a little more interactive kind of a session, we can always do that on the Saturday Zoom classes. So again, as I keep saying always, please spend at least 8 hours every day in learning. Please do not just look at this for half an hour and think that your learning is completed. It does not work like that. You will have to give in maximum amount of time every single day, so that you can pick up on the concepts very fast, and you can complete the level 2 very fast, and you can